Well, welcome to today's webinar, How Complete is Your Company's Active Directory Environment? I'm Ashish Wordy from GlassWater Technology. One of the reasons we chose to partner up with Hyperfish is, when organizations are looking into governance when it comes to content environments or document management systems, one of the first places they look is Active Directory. A lot of times, unless your Active Directory is governed, it pretty much makes a pretty hard climb to govern your content repositories. I'm Ashish Wordy from GlassWater Technology. A little bit about GlassWater is it thrives in the gap between innovative companies and governments aiming to adapt the Microsoft cloud. A lot of times when organizations are trying to go to the cloud, there's several productivity solutions they need to think of, whether it's line of business or content repositories, or how do we move old data into new data. From a scalability, security, and governance perspective, Glasswire Technology is there to help. So when we think of Office 365 or Microsoft Cloud Active Directory, it's really key in the cloud for SaaS offerings. One of the big things is in the cloud is you could leverage identity management through Active Directory to access Exchange Online, Azure VMs, line of business applications like PeopleSoft, ADP, Salesforce, Box, Dropbox, etc. Different people have access to different portals within the cloud based on criteria within Active Directory. Another big key for Active Directory governance is content classification, based location and office, automatically tagging data based on where the location or office is within a user, leveraging Delve in Office 365. All that content is based on Active Directory components, whether it's your role or department, or the people directory itself, where all your contact information is. Another good use case for content classification is site information cards. Who the owner of a site is, who that person's manager might be, who do I contact when I need new content on a site, publishing policies. Another good use case is retention policies, maybe based on what department that user is a part of, or what duration, or what level. If it's a C-level employee, maybe they want longer retention policies. And I think the last major pillar is role-based governance. Based on who a person is, you might want to allocate different set of service criteria. For example, if I'm a developer, I might want a site that has a lot of resources, so I could develop customizations on. If I'm in marketing, I might want to just have publishing on, and have kind of a lease period of a couple weeks. So, what is Hyperfish? And I'll actually go ahead and let Chris Johnson kind of talk that over. Chris, if you want to go ahead and jump in, go for it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. So my name is Chris Johnson. I'm with Hyperfish and the CTO and co-founder, and I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes to walk through what Hyperfish is and then to dive into a demo. So at its core, Hyperfish is all about making your profile and directory data better. We do that through connecting and analyzing your directory data, whether that be in Azure Active Directory or an Active Directory on premises. And you go ahead and you define what information is important to you, the rules that you want us to go and check for, things such as, is the data there? So in the case of maybe titles, you want to make sure that titles and everything are accurate and complete. And then more complex rules, so things like, do profile photos contain somebody's face, for example, or multiple people's faces, or do they meet company guidelines? So we have the ability to go through and check a directory for all those kinds of rules and things you want us to check for. And then based on that, we're able to go and start a conversation with the user to go and get it completed. So for example, if you wanted to say, hey, mobile phones are important to us for emergency planning and contingency purposes, then you can say, we need to make sure everybody's mobile phones are in the directory or in that person's profile, that they meet a specific dialing pattern for international dialing purposes perhaps, and then if Hyperfish finds that that person doesn't meet those rules or that level of quality of data, that we're able to go and notify them and say, hey, your organization would like you to complete your mobile phone number. We make it very easy to correct that. They can either reply to the email directly and just hit reply and say, hey, my phone number is 425-123-1234, or they can go through to a profile page where they can complete that data in a sort of a mobile-friendly and web-friendly manner as well. So we do this through a set of technology. So we do that through a set of technology that we call our chatbot technology, whether that be through email perhaps, or we're also adding the ability to talk with users over things like Slack and Skype for Business as IM platforms that we're working on. But the goal here is to make it as super simple as possible for users to be able to update their profile information that the organization would like them to update. It's all governed and in control of IT, or by IT, I should say, so that only the fields that they should be able to modify are able to be modified, and only the types of data that they want entered into those fields is able to be entered into those fields. And when users make changes, you can decide on whether you want to write those directly back to the directory or have them go through some sort of approval process along the way. So our goal here is to make it as simple and easy as possible for users to interact with the system, but also make sure that IT is left in control to ensure data quality and that they know what's going on for fields that they care about. So rather than talking too much about it, why don't we skip ahead one slide here and we'll jump to a demo. Let me flip over to my machine here. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. All right, so this is the administrative portal of Hyperfish. Hyperfish is a cloud-based service that either connects to Office 365, as I mentioned, and Azure Active Directory, or to on-premises Active Directory. But what you see when you come into Hyperfish is really the home dashboard gives you a view of exactly where you're at with your level of completeness for your profile information. So for example here we say 62% of your basic account information is missing, and then for each of the sections here between things like manager and reports, position details, organization details, location details, contact information and profile pictures, we give you a breakdown of what that information looks like. After 30 days you'll start seeing a trend report of how that information is getting better over time. So we can say, we can track how your level of completeness is going. So if we dive into one of the more complex sections here, so say location details, you can see it's broken out by different fields. Now all these are completely configurable. If you come up into Hyperfish and come into settings, in the general tab, you can see the directory attributes section, which is where you're able to come in and say, here are the profile fields I'm interested in making better in my organization, and what formats are applied and whether they're required or read-only with users. So this is where you set up the rules that you want applied for various properties. So for example, you might have a mobile phone number in here. You might make it a required field, and that it has to be a phone number format. And so what that means is down the format section, you can come in and set up those formats using common patterns that you want for dialing patterns and so forth, to make sure that when users enter the data that you're getting the quality and format that you want rather than just straight text that a user would apply. So that's how you set up what fields you're interested in. But right at the beginning, we want to make sure that when you first start using Hyperfish that you're comfortable with using the technology. So we have what we call the Hyperfish mode. The first mode is analyze only, that is a completely read-only mode where we go in and analyze your directory and are able to show you the statistics. But we don't ever do any write-backs. We don't write any data back to your directory. Pilot mode, on the other hand, is a way that you can get set up with Hyperfish and run it only on a small set of users. So you might add 5 or 10 folks that you want to pilot the technology with from your organization that you can add to the pilot, and we'll send them the emails and so forth and the notifications that their data is missing or inaccurate, and then offer for just that group of people to come in, update their profiles and write it back to the directory. Then run mode on the far right here is really when you want to run the technology on the entire organization. So once you're comfortable and you've piloted it, you understand how the technology works, you've seen how it can improve your directory with your pilot users, then you can move to run and really expand the scope of how Hyperfish runs in the organization. Now, when users make changes, as I mentioned, you may not want some of those necessarily being written directly back to the directory without some sort of approval process. So the approval screen here lets you set up for each attribute in your directory which ones require approval and which ones don't. So in this case, you can see mobile phone number, excuse me, mobile phone number is set to auto-approve. And what this means is when I come in and update my phone number and submit it, that would get automatically written back to the directory. But there are obviously properties, things like maybe job title or manager, that you don't want that to happen with. And so you have full control over which fields require approval and which don't. You can also set up who gets those notifications about approvals and when they get those notifications. So in this case, we have 3 approvers set up, and they're notified immediately when approvals come in. But you could easily choose a daily digest or to never send out approval notices. So what they get is an email that says, hey, these people have submitted changes that require your approval. And when they click the link on the email, they'll be brought to the approval screen, where you can see here I've got a couple of changes where Ann Wallace wants to change her last name from Wallace to Wallacer. There might have been a typo or something. And I can simply come over here to the green thumbs up and click go, and that is now approved and has been written back to the directory. So this makes it really straightforward and simple for people to delegate approval to other folks in the organization. Maybe there's somebody in your team or your group or your area of the company that's responsible for approving these things. Or it could be somebody in IT, or it could be a set of people across the company. Those folks don't have to be directory administrators. IT can delegate approval rights to them through Hyperfish. To ensure that you're kept up to date with everything that we're doing, we have a simple event log here which tells you when we go and do the analysis on your directory and where you can come and see events happening in the system, such as when we make changes to the directory and so forth. And so you can come in here and search for different changes or events that happen between particular dates, just to see what the system is up to and so forth. From a user's point of view, what they see is they get an email that says, hey, we've noticed that you're missing your mobile phone number, for example, and they get a simple link that'll bring them to a profile page. This profile page works regardless of whether your directory is on-premises or in the cloud. And a user can come in here and, based on the settings that the org has set up for various properties, will allow them to update their profile. Here you can see that manager I've set to Alex Darrow, but there's this pending flag beside it. That means that this change is pending approval from the approvers in the organization. Also, if I come in and start editing my profile, you'll see that we've got some simple rules set up here for things like mobile phone number has to meet a particular pattern. And when I enter a phone number that's not meeting that particular pattern, you'll notice that it's not valid and I can't save those changes. But if I come in and enter a valid phone number, I can come in and click save, and now that phone number has been sent into the system. It doesn't have a pending flag beside it because we have auto approval set for mobile phone numbers, because we just want to let users in this case update their own mobile phone numbers and not necessarily require approval before it goes back into the directory. This works really well on mobile phones as well. So if a user checks their email from their phone or what have you from home, they see an email saying, hey, we're missing your mobile phone, they can click directly on that link in their mobile browser, go straight through to the profile update page to make their changes. Nice and simple and really straightforward. We do the same thing for location details, but we get a little more complex. So we have things like type ahead, type ahead drop-downs here, where people can set country and so forth. And these pickers, or this picking experience, we're able to set up, pardon me, per field. This could perhaps be a set of standard titles in your organization, maybe particular office locations, for example. It could be job titles, departments, and so forth that you can set up for your fields and have users pick from, rather than entering free text into those options, or into the boxes, I should say. Notice when I check United States here that the state field above moves to a picker, so we're able to do based on which country you're in, also have that cascade into being able to fill out certain fields, in this case state, based on those other fields. We also have the ability to update your profile picture. So we make it really simple to come in and drag and drop a photo in here and crop that. Let me just grab a photo that I have here. I'll go grab a photo of myself. This one, notice I've got a ski mask on. If I come in and I can crop the photo as I wish, and then I can say next. It's picked the area that I've chosen, and then we can click validate. Notice in this case that it says, uh-oh, we haven't detected any faces. That's because on the set of rules I have for a thumbnail photo or for a person's profile picture, the organization has set up that a face must be detectable. So let's start over again and go and add a new photo here. Let me see if I can pick one. I think this one has my face in it. We can click validate. There we go. Looks good, and I can click save. And now that's been saved into the system as a pending change. If we go back into the administrative section, I'll just show you how that's set up for a second here. In general, let's go down to the picture format, which is what our profile picture is set to. If I click edit, you'll notice we've got some settings here for doing things like ad hoc content filtering, whether we allow no faces, whether we allow multiple faces, and so forth. And so that's kind of an example of a more complex rule for editing and adjusting attributes or properties that you want users to set. Profile picture is kind of a special one. It's unlike most of the other properties. It's a photo as opposed to a text field. So these are some of the more advanced options we offer there. Now, you also get to, as an administrator, you also get to configure how we reach out to users. We call this HyperBot, and you get to personalize it. So you get to give it a name, obviously. In this case, our HyperBot's name is Woody. You get to give him a personality. You can choose from fun, relaxed, or serious. And what this does, it will adjust the content in the emails to be more, fun or relaxed or a more serious tone in those conversations. You also get to set how often we go out and reach out to users. So in this case, I have it set to go and reach out to them daily for up to 7 attempts before we stop talking to that user about a particular missing field. Sometimes it might be more appropriate to do it every other day, so you can move the slider to every other day or perhaps weekly as well. And so this just really gives you control over how often our HyperBot will reach out to users and ask them for information. Contact channels are about the channels that we reach out to them on. So we've launched with email, and Skype for Business will be coming shortly. But over time we'll be adding more channels to the section, different instant message platforms and so forth, things like text message over time as well, we see in the future here. But for now, the email channel will mean that users are reached out to over email and are emailed about their missing fields. Do not disturb is really a place where you can come in and enter email addresses for people that you just outright never want to bug with an ask to update their information. Perhaps the CEO, for example, or something along those lines. So you've got a little bit of control here about just not disturbing particular people in the organization. The permissions tab lets you set up who can do what in Hyperfish. The pilot participant section is where you go and add people to the pilot. If you run in pilot mode, or sorry, if you put Hyperfish into pilot mode, these are the people that we'll reach out to while in the pilot to talk to them about their missing or inaccurate profile data. The administrators section gives you the ability to delegate administrative rights to Hyperfish to other people in the organization. Again, these may not be people with directory administrative rights, but there might be folks in IT or elsewhere in the organization that you want to allow to help administer Hyperfish. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the approvers section is where you would come in and add any delegated approvers for approvals that flow into the system. So in a nutshell, when you start Hyperfish, we put you into analysis mode. That will analyze your directory, give you a nice looking report of what current state your directory data is in and what fields are missing or inaccurate. Based on that, you can move into pilot mode after configuring the fields that you're interested in correcting in your organization. So in this case, in this demo organization, maybe I'm interested in collecting people's manager information and populating that in the directory. So I might go and make manager a required field and have HyperBot reach out to users about that. Or I also noticed that organization details is missing quite a bit. We're only at 28% completeness for Office and 25 for department. So that might be something else that I want to go and complete or get completed. So I go and make sure those were required fields and that the formats were set correctly for them. I'd move into pilot and I can test that out with a small group of users. And then when I'm ready, I can move into run and run it on a wider organization, on the wider organization to make sure that my entire directory is up to snuff, contains all of the information it should, but not just whether a field is complete or not, but whether the information in that field is accurate. So that could be anything as simple as phone number formats, all the way through to things like standard titles in the organization perhaps, or from a set of offices, office locations, and things like that that you have in your organization. It's also worth noting that Hyperfish can work with extended attributes in a directory. So if, for example, you collect maybe certifications or education history or something along those lines, and you want to populate that in your directory for other line of business systems to use or for search purposes or what have you, you can come in and add those fields as well, and we'll be able to pick them up from Active Directory. You'll be able to apply rules to them like you would with any other field, and so we support those extensible field types as well as the out-of-the-box Active Directory fields that you get by default when in any Active Directory. So over time, our goal is obviously to make your directory data better. We want you to see obviously good trends happening in these charts as you move towards full completeness of your directory. And obviously the downstream effects of this are really what we're aiming for, being the business benefit of Hyperfish. Being able to leverage additional applications like Delve, like People Search, like Outlook contact cards that are rich and full of information, as well as making sure that the directory data that you have in your directory that power those applications and scenarios is accurate, meets the appropriate governance rules and compliance rules in your organization, as well as powering those other types of applications. Back to you.
Perfect, thanks. Chris, let me just go ahead and present this out. Thanks, Chris. Sorry about that. So one thing I want to let everyone know, I've done this a couple times now, and it's really easy to do. Go to app.hyperfish.com and run the analyzer. It will actually give you just a basic report of what you have out there, and all the way down to some nitty-gritty of just how many users are missing just some basic information. If you guys need any help or any assistance doing that, just contact us at GlassWater at contact@glasswatertech.com. We'd be glad to walk you through it, even just survey the results with you, and kind of go for some quick wins together to kind of figure out how in your business you could actually go ahead and start improving the Active Directory contents. I just want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Hyperfish. And we'll see you guys next time. Oh, shoot.
I think we have a question, guys.
Oh.
Hang on one sec. It's from Mohammed. He's saying, what Active Directory data do you store on your server for analysis?
Sure, I can address that one. So thanks for the question, Mohammed. That's actually quite a common question. The short answer is we don't actually store any of your directory data in our service. So our analysis tool will obviously go and analyze your directory and look at the data of whether it meets the rules that you've defined in your organization. But we don't actually keep that data. We don't store it in any databases in our cloud service or anything like that. In fact, if you're an on-premises Active Directory customer, the analysis happens on-site in your location, and none of the data is sent to our cloud service at all. If you choose to allow users to update their profile through our tool or through Hyperfish, then we do keep the new value that the user has set it to so that we can show it for approval purposes to administrators. But at no time do we keep the full user's profile data or the entire directory data at all. It's all just looked at analysis time, and then we keep statistics about that data, such as how many people are missing phone number, or how many people's title was not from a set of titles that the org has defined. But we don't keep information such as title was CEO or title was VP of sales or what have you. Our goal is to not keep any or as little data as we need to, just to get our job done. So that was a very conscious decision on our part. We understand there's people's profile data is private, and so we took a conscious effort to not keep any of the data from profiles. Other than when we look at it for analysis, it's in memory very briefly.